We'll get started and
You are good to go.
great, thank you. So I'll call this meeting to order, meeting of the Children and Youth Commission. Is Joe serving as the person who does the roll call, or do I do that at this new format? Do we know that?
It's usually the staff liaison that calls that.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Great, thank you, Joe. George, do you want to do the roll call then?
Yes, I'll start right now. 1 second. Yeah, so Joanne Lafrac,
Present.
Richard Lindahl,
Present.
Heather Smallwood, Mark Dixon,
Present.
Cristal Ibarra, Dr. Lisa Salazar, Gus Martinez, Jennifer Romero,
Present.
Joe Berenice.
Present.
I believe you have a quorum.
All right.
Great, thank you, George. So the point of this meeting is to discuss the 3 proposals that didn't make it to us during the original funding cycle when we were discussing proposals. Probably due to the pandemic and craziness during the time, those proposals did not make it to us. George sent them to us. Hopefully you all received them. Also, we just got an email today with the governance and finance attachments for the Presbyterian medical services proposal. So I'm not sure if you all have had a chance to look at that yet. Let me know if you haven't, because we'll give a few minutes for you to re-look at that proposal and rescore your Presbyterian chart so that we can move forward. So let me know if you guys need time for that.
I would.
Okay, let's give it a maybe like 5 minutes for people to look at it. And then as people are looking, I just want to remind everyone, since we're streaming live on YouTube, if there's discussion where we need to go into executive session on particular funding amounts or things like that, then we'll do so.
And Joanne or Kira, were these additional attachments, budget, governance, were they received on time?
Madam Chair, Mr. Lindahl, yes, they were received on time by purchasing. Staff in community services did not receive them. And my apologies, when purchasing set up the links for you to read the full proposals, those were not included.
Okay.
So that's the explanation for.
Okay, thank you.
And just to share with the commissioners that the gross receipts taxes, we were very conservative with our estimate in terms of gross receipts taxes, understandably so, and they were slightly higher. So, so we do have funding that we can allocate to these 3 organizations should we deem that to be the case. And any remaining funding would go to our innovation fund, which we didn't put any money to because we were being very conservative at the time. So in about 5 minutes, we'll come back together to share scores and go through the rubric. So does that feel like enough time for you to have re-evaluated the Presbyterian documents at this time? Let me know if you need a little more time. Okay, so since I haven't heard, yes, I need more time, let's go through, but what we can do is evaluate Presbyterian last out of the three. We can do the other two and then Presbyterian in case some of you need more time to evaluate. I'm just going to remind you of the rubric that we used for the last funding cycle for the CYC. And this may be slightly different from CYFD, but just to kind of go over what we did for CYC funding. Anyone who scored a 65 and lower was eliminated. Everyone who scored between 66 and 69 got 50% of funding. Everyone who scored between 70 and 74, they got 75% of funding. Everybody who scored 75 and higher got 100% of their funding request. With two exceptions, if the commissioners felt that the funding ask was too high for the budget, they got an automatic 25% reduction in their overall ask. and organizations that were deemed less essential during a pandemic also were not, during this crazy time, were not funded. And so that was the rubric that we used this past time. And I wonder if we want to tally up our numbers from having reviewed these three and then run it through the rubric and see how that sits. Does that feel like a good methodology to go through these three?
Yeah, I think that's good, Joanne.
Okay, and then George, I don't know, I know you sent me additional forms that people had sent in. Do you want to report on any of the numbers that have come in from commissioners who are not present at this meeting? Are you able to do that? If not, I can pull them up because I think you sent them to me.
Chair LaFrance, let me just open up the folder of which I have the proposals and see if, just give me a second.
Because some people may not be able to attend, but may have evaluated. Although I might suggest that since they have not seen the additional documents, the budget documents and the governance documents from Presbyterian, that the those are, when we're reviewing Presbyterian, those are not reviewed at this time.
Also, Chair LaFrance, out of the proposals I received, those 4 commissioners are in attendance for this meeting, so they have the score.
Okay, so everybody is accounted for. Great, thank you for looking, George. So let's hold off on Presbyterian in case any of you need more time, and go to the teen parent program, and I'll just say my score, and then I'll say another commissioner's name, and you say the score, and then you say another commissioner's name, and they'll say their score. So that sounds like a good way to get through it all. So I scored the teen parent program 78. Jennifer?
I scored them at 74. Joe?
I score them at 80. Richard?
I scored them at 61 plus the 3%. So that would, it'll still be in the mid 60s.
And Joanne, I did not add my 3. Last time we just did like the bear and didn't do the 3. Do you want me to do that?
No, I didn't add the 3%. Let's add the 3% at the end, because all the organizations will have gotten
Okay.
the 3% since they're all local.
Okay, so then I had 61. And Mark?
87.
What was that, Mark? Sorry.
87.
Okay. And then we have Andrea.
I scored them a 70.
70. Okay. Just give me a minute. Well, we'll get all the scores, and then if you give me a minute, then I'll tally everything and I'll tell you what that all means. So then now that we have the scores for the teen parent program, let's go to YouthWorks. I scored them 80. Jennifer?
73. Joe?
76. Richard? Richard, you're on mute.
$69. And Mark?
73.
And Andrea?
70.
Okay, And now let's go to PMS, Presbyterian. Our new scores for Presbyterian, I gave them a 64. Jennifer?
65.
Shall I go next?
Sure.
Sorry, yes, Joe.
60. Richard,
I'm lowball again, 49. Mark,
63.
And Andrea?
67.
67. Okay, now if you guys will just give me 1 minute, I'll calculate and I'll let you know in a second what the final scores were, and then I'll let you know how that sifts in the rubric. Okay. So that puts teen parent at 75, youth works at 73.5, and Presbyterian at 61. So looking at those scores and using the rubric that we had used for all the other organizations, well, I should ask, did any of you think that the funding ask was too high for any of those organizations?
I had a question about teen parent program. Looking at the budget, they applied for 96,000 plus. And what is their, I thought their current amount somewhere in their proposal, I read their current amount from CYC was 38,000. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're correct. My understanding from reading their request is that they were going to expand to have a navigator, and that was what the request for the additional funding was for. Um, is that everybody else's understanding?
Yeah, and it looked like they were going to bring in partners from many mothers or mother tongue to come in, I guess, virtually into Capitol High.
So then my question was, do we want to have program expansion in this budget crisis? And I also added a comment that, are they in their 6th year of funding? And that doesn't show much sustainability, but I thought I read that they were in their 6th year of funding now.
I mean, I think you bring up a good point, since it is a significant expansion that could fall under the category of the ask being much higher, and we could put the 25% reduction if we all agree, because at 75 and higher, they would, according to the rubric, receive 100% of funding. But if the expansion feels like a lot during a pandemic, which also falls within the kind of discussion point of essential needs in a pandemic. So that is entirely up to the commission whether we want to include the 25% reduction, since they would be slated to receive full funding otherwise.
So if we did the 25% reduction, what would that do to the navigator? I mean, we're trying to encourage navigation on one level. You know? So how would that impact navigation services?
So Joe, your question is, would they still be able to provide another navigator?
Right.
So just with my familiarity with what they currently do in the Connect network, they're working with individuals with children, which I would say now during the pandemic is more challenging than ever before. And that's where I could kind of see an expansion during this time could be useful in this predicament, being a parent and having children, and being, you know, not a young person anymore, but it could be pretty challenging.
Madam Chair, is it appropriate for me to add information at this time?
Please
So
do.
we have found that the Connect network agencies in the Human Services Committee that have navigators are quite busy at this time, even more so. The Connect network has seen, Jennifer, I believe, could speak to this, quite a exponential increase in the number of people that are accessing that network. So I think navigation services during the pandemic have proven from our observation to be useful, crucial, and pretty necessary. And it does cost essentially a program like Teen Parent the cost of hiring the navigator to hold that navigator. It's not something that can sort of be scaled back too much without them not being able to offer those services. I hope that's helpful.
So then is it the decision of the Children Youth Commission to fund the Teen Parent Center, since they scored 75, at their full amount?
I would say yes, you know, if we're going to encourage navigation services, and they're essential at this point, you know. I know it's
I don't have any reservations funding them at 100%.
Yeah. It's a giant leap, but it is an additional service that we're trying to encourage. You know?
And since I brought up the point, I mean, I'll go along with the recommendation, but you know, maybe in the future, we should look more at sustainability too, because if this is their 6th year of funding, you know, that's not sustainability. But that goes for a lot of programs, honestly.
So what we'll do, let's take each one. Do we do a motion for each one? I think we should probably. Or do we make all of the recommendations? Sorry, George, go ahead.
I was gonna say I would probably make a motion for each of the proposals.
Okay, so can I have a motion to recommend 100% of the funding request for the Teen Parent program?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, now moving on to YouthWorks. They scored 73.5, which puts them at, according to the rubric, 75% of their funding ask. But the two questions to ask about it was whether the funding ask felt too high and if they feel essential during this time. Is there any discussion on that?
I have some, Joanne. I think they applied for 100,000 plus 27,000 for the intensive community monitoring. Is that right?
It looks like on their application that their full ask was 100,000 because that was the maximum that they could ask for. Is that correct, George?
Commissioner Lindahl, Madam Chair, that is correct.
So then the full 100,000 would include the ICM program, right? For 27,000. Okay. Thank you.
So if there's no other discussion, can I have a motion to approve funding YouthWorks at 75% of their request?
I'll make a motion to fund YouthWorks at 75% of their request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And then Presbyterian is the last one. According to our scoring, they received 61 aggregate, which under 65 and under, they do, according to our rubric, they would not receive any funding. Is there any discussion around that prior to making setting forth a motion to not funding Presbyterian? Okay, may I ask for a motion to not fund Presbyterian based on their scoring?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jennifer. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So thank you for making the time to do these last three proposals. If you guys want, we can go into executive session so I can go through the exact amounts that will be the monetary amounts that will be recommended and what we have left over for our innovation fund. Is there any other discussion before we adjourn this meeting and go into executive session? Great. Thank you so much for being here and efficient and spending your time reviewing these proposals, these extra proposals. We really appreciate it. So without further business, this meeting is adjourned. Joe, thank you for putting us live on YouTube. If you don't mind us just going into executive session for a few minutes after we are not live.
Okay. I will give you the heads up when we go off. Just let me know when I can stop it.
I think you can stop it. That without further business, this meeting is the open part of the meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Now I just need to reclaim host. Hold on a sec here.
Thank you. Thanks for your help.
George, can you make me host, please? For some reason, it's not letting me reclaim it. Is George there?
He's here. He's just muted.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, George.
Yeah, no
Okay, I'm
problem.
going to stop